Hello there, folks.
Hi there.
So it's another episode of Würfelcast. It's episode 30 already. So we are getting there.
Comes
We're
right
getting
after
there.
29.
Yes. And before 31. That's mind-blowing. Yeah, all right. So we've last time we had like 2 videos in a row. We had the top 10 games of 2020, then we had anticipated games, and now we're getting back to a more usual stuff. And today our topic of the day is top 10 dice games. We'll talk about how we did our list later, but as always, we start the show with a segment called Recent Plays. And for that, of course, I have a beautiful screen to share.
All right.
As you can see here. Whoa, that's a technology.
That's
But anyway.
Looks a lot like a website.
Wait, what? No. But we're going to talk about our recent plays. I think, Kyle, you should start. You've played a lot.
I've played a lot, and I have been playing a lot of sort of dungeon crawly type games lately. And so the first one I want to talk about is called Alter Quest. Alter Quest is, artistically an homage to Heroescape and that style of game. It's certainly not the same. This is a game where you'll take a hero or a party of heroes, and you'll go and kind of fight through some sort of a dungeon looking for an altar and fighting monsters as you go. Sort of the hook of the game, it's almost like a dungeony version of Cthulhu Death May Die. That's probably the best comparison I can give it, because what you'll do is you'll take a villain deck, you'll take a monster deck, and you'll take a quest sort of scenario. You'll kind of mix them together, and that'll give you the parameters of the game that you're playing. You can play it as a campaign. There's a campaign book in the box that will take you through a story where you can kind of connect and improve your characters between games. Or you can just jump in and open it up, play one quest, and put it away and be done. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. It has a terrible rule book. I'm shocked at how bad it is for a game that's done by people who've done a lot of other games. And sort of today, where there are so many resources to test that kind of thing, the amount of work that had to go into learning this game was surprisingly high. Right. It's also very lucky. You're rolling dice for just about everything. Your character has, I think, 8 different stats, and that's the way that you do things. If someone attacks you, it attacks against your, pink stat, and then you'll roll dice. But the dice rolling is kind of interesting because all of the faces are positive. There's never anything that's terrible. The worst result is you get a resource that you can use on a later turn, or if you have that resource already, you can turn that die result into a hit. There are also the exploding dice that could potentially get you more die rolls. So the worst you can get is a resource. The best you can get is to roll another die for more hits. So it's there's a lot of luck involved, but it's sort of the good kind where you always kind of feel like you're getting something. But I enjoyed it. I liked it. I played it for a whole weekend. Sort of back to back to back. It's big. Okay. It's sprawling. And it's a great way to experience kind of that Heroescape or Descent type of experience, but in a solo or cooperative format.
I see. All right, yeah. Not my type of game, usually, and I don't think I'm gonna try this at any time, but...
Well, you don't have to.
Yes, that's the wonders of the board gaming world right now. Being in the golden age of board games, we have so many games to play and try, and like Zeke Garcia said, there's a game for everyone.
Probably more than one.
or more than one. At least, yeah. But I mean, like, there's at least that one game that somebody will like, surely, even if he hates all the other games. All right. So, Alder Quest. What else have you played?
Well, the other dungeon-y game I've played recently, that seems to be the theme, is a game called Adventure Tactics.
Okay.
Now, Adventure Tactics is a very different feel of a game from Alter Quest. In this game, you're playing through a story, so it's a campaign, game where you'll start at the beginning and you'll go through toward the end. But really, what it is it's a bunch of kind of boss fights. Each scenario is basically there's a boss and some minions, and you have to go through and defeat them. And you do so, you've got a hand of cards, and you've got 2 actions, and so you'll play 2 cards, and they'll let you attack with your base stats or do something special. There are 5 characters in the game, and they're your standard dungeon party characters. You've got a wizard, a fighter, a rogue, I guess. Various sort of typical characters. But the hook of the game is that after every single fight, you're going to level up. And when you do that, there's the game comes with, I think 21 different classes in addition to those base 5. And so you can sort of look at a menu and say, well, I would really like to become a necromancer. And you'll see that requires you to have 2 levels of wizard. And so the first time you level up, you select a new level, a second level. If you're a wizard at 1, then you select a level 2 wizard. And then the next time you do that, you can become that necromancer. And then the next time you do that, you could be a level 2 necromancer. Or you could say, well, I'm done with this. I want to work on being a fighter and get some fighter classes and change to a different class. So you can change a lot, and you can change and go different ways. And that's really fascinating, because each time you do that, it's going to change your deck. It'll add special cards in, it'll give you new special abilities, change your stats, give you a health boost, and sort of change whether you're ranged or how fast you can move, that kind of thing. And that's really interesting. And you'll play 11 or 12, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of different paths you can go down, but they all kind of take you to the same place. But you'll play several scenarios, and you'll get better and better, and then the game's over. The game is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's very fun, very engaging, and it has terrible components. The standees are fine, but those boards, I mean, they are doing the time warp from the moment you take them out of the box. They bend. The player boards are terrible quality cardboard. It's just that portion of it, the sort of physical aspect, is really poorly done.
Okay.
And that's very unfortunate, because the game itself is pretty good, but it comes to the point where those player boards, they're going to bow to the point that every time you pick up anything from them, they're going to flip around, and they've got slots for the cards. And those slots aren't going to do anything, because the board is going to move all the time because it's bent so badly. The rules also were better than Alter Quest, but still left a lot of vagaries about some things. So again, it's certainly not a perfect game, but it's a very enjoyable one. It's also a little bit on the easy side. I made it through, with a couple of close calls, but largely, especially toward the end, was just stomping over the big bosses because of the character progression. Also, not the best solo game, because you have to have at least 3 characters, and so if you don't want to manage 3, and you want to do it solo, that's not going to be for you. If, of course, you have 2 friends, or 3 or 4, then it's going to be a great experience, and I highly recommend it, despite the fact that I really wish that they had maybe stress tested some of the physical components a bit.
Okay, yeah. It looks cool. I like the art, and I don't know, it seems to be a kind of a silly / not, and yeah, that's something I might try.
Yeah, it's not really silly at all. It's not. I mean, it's lighthearted perhaps, and the artwork is certainly bright and vibrant. But there's a serious story that you're playing through.
Yeah, it seems that this one needs to have though this one doesn't show the recessed boards, but this one needs to have a deluxeified version. I can see the miniatures. Maybe they were in the Kickstarter, like deluxe or whatever. The
I didn't get it for
special
the
edition.
Kickstarter. The miniatures came in the box, at least the one that I got.
Okay. Yeah,
And the
but I
board
mean, like
is
it
recessed,
should get
but it bows.
it should get like a new version. I think maybe like
Yeah.
a more appropriate components for that. But Ultimate Games, I've never heard of them. Who are they? I mean,
I think they're the guys. I know they did a game. I think they are the ones who did. What's that game about filling your backpack?
I see
Wire
Groves,
for Hire. Is that theirs? I've played Groves.
Dinos, Dirigible Disaster, Matryoshka,
Maybe they're
Groves.
not. Maybe that's
I've
something
heard
else.
about Groves.
Groves
I
is
mean, like,
mediocre.
Nothing. Square for Hire.
Yeah, Squire for Hire. That's the one. That's sort of their best known game, I think. And that's a
Is it?
small pocket game.
Rank 4000. That's an obscure game. Okay, I see. Looks cool though. I like the art. All right, yeah. All right, these are your two games,
Yep.
and my two recent plays. One of them is the one I talked about last time, but I want to briefly talk about it again. So
Okay.
I played Merv again with another person, and I played it 2-player again, but this time I played with the person. Like, first I played with my girlfriend. She's not a gamer at all. Now I played with a person who is a gamer and more experienced in such games. So we both could discuss the game and different things. Like as we go through the game, we could discuss what is good or not about this game. And the thing is, the 2-player version of this game has this kind of a dummy player who is not doing anything in particular except just building up the houses in this grid, and taking the places. Now, the thing is that we as players control that, and like, for example, the first player controls where the meeple goes in those 5 rows or columns, and now the next player then decides where that dummy player builds. And with 2 players, maybe the problem of this game, but on the other hand, for some it might be a good thing, is that this dummy player, because it's controlled by other players, it just made to screw over each other. It's a total take that mechanism in a 2-player game. If that would be the 3rd player, a human player, then they would do something that would benefit them the best, most likely in such a game. This is a Euro game where you're trying to get the most points and do the most things. So, but with that dummy player, if we control that player, we try to put that piece where it does something bad for the other person. It's not particularly attacking, but it's blocking, and blocking a lot. So you have to be sure, but like when you go into that game, if you play a 2-player, it's a lot more take that. I mean, in such a way, like in a blocking way, than if you play it maybe with 4 or 3 players. I haven't played with 3 or 4, but I can totally see how it works. It's not gonna change except the dummy player. So yeah, Merv, still a really good game. I like it a lot. I tried a different strategy, by the way, and it works. I mean, like, this game is rather balanced, and I thought, like, when I played, I made a few mistakes in the beginning, and I was feeling like I'm so much behind, and I lost the game by like 4 points maybe, eventually, but I was like 30 points behind at first, but at the end of the game, I got like a ton of points for set collection. And I just didn't do that in the right way from the beginning, but then I got got the strategy going. So yeah, multiple strategies, different things you can do. Merv is still a really good game, but beware. 2 players can be a cutthroat experience.
Yeah. Now, I, on the other hand, have only played it 2-player and solo. So I have not experienced what the joys of a third player could be. And
I
I
have
found
not as well.
I see. I
That's
found
the thing.
the spoiler player sort of yellow color, well, whatever color it would be. I didn't find it that bad in this one because there is at least some sort of, like, I could say, well, I'll put it in the first row, and that way I can make sure that it doesn't block because I really want to go to the second row or whatever. You can sort of make some choices around it, but I could certainly see that having a person who's just making a decision is going to be a better experience.
Yeah, yeah. But if you're not the first player, then the first player moves that player where, and
Sure.
and that person can move that dummy player to a row which is filled with your houses, and you want to do that. And the actions and things, you can see what you want to do, and then he can block that basically.
Yeah, it might make the turn order more important, which you can influence. But I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I would like to try it with more people someday.
me too. Yes, what a great game. All right, so and my next play is the game that we didn't finish the game, but that's because we realized we have done some really bad mistakes because of a just terrible rulebook and rulebook with a lot of typos and things that just this rulebook needs to be revised. And that's Nevada City. And Nevada City is a real cool game, and I like my experience with that so far. Except we have to play it again with right rules. We were like a little bit, underwhelmed by so many things and mistakes. But in this game, it's a worker placement game where you have this different characters. And they have the pawns, and you have like your family, a pa, ma, daughter, and son. And then they have those different pawns. And some of them have like 3 pawns, and some of your characters have only 1 pawn. So, and you do the action rounds, and the action round is using one of your characters. So during one action round, you can do 3 things, and during another action round, you can do only 1 thing. But there might that one thing they have those symbols on them, and they might be stronger in certain actions, much stronger than the other ones. So, and you are basically what you're doing. You're building up the different buildings, and then you have those tiles where you farm the resources and you sell them. And where's the good picture? I don't know. There's no good picture at all. I don't know if you can see it here. But basically, yeah, you're trying to build up those buildings. You have the contract row, and you're getting the resources and commodities in order to, have the contracts done as well and getting the most points eventually. And the cool part of that is that you are basically building up the worker spots. Those buildings are the worker spots. You have 4 printed on, then you will have 4 more, which are the player ones. Even if you play with less than like 4 or 3 players, then 2 of them will be like already put on the table, and like they're owned by the bank, by the game. You can go there, and if you go on a building that other player has, you have to pay them, so you have to be precise about where you go, etc. And it's a heavy resource management game, and it also has the event deck, and those events can be harsh. Like, for example, bad things can happen, or really like a boom in production, or you have to pay a lot of money, and you have to be prepared for that. During our first game, as we didn't look at the events, we were like kind of discovering them, and I got into a bad situation where like the event came up that told me I have to pay for each of my buildings build up, and I'm like, oh, I'm out of money. I already spent all the money, and I had to take a loan and etc. But I mean, it can be harsh the first play, but if you get to know the events and there are some mitigations on those events you can do as well, then it's not, you have to learn the game basically, and then you know what's going to happen, and you can get more of the helpers workers that are kind of temporary things and etc. The problem with the game is the rulebook. I mean, first of all, we played it wrong because the 2-player game has a little bit different approach to that. You have to take off some buildings and like take out of the game. And for example, there is the thing is that when you do the contracts can give you less or more points. They give you more points if certain buildings are already out and built. So there was, like, for example, one contract card that said you get more points if that building is built into the board, you know. But as a two-player game setup, that building is out of the game. So, wait, what? So we just took this contract out, although it didn't say anything, and there's nothing to point that out in the forums or anything like that. The rulebook had some typos, wrong rules and things. We had to go to the internet, and eventually I started making mistakes. I used one of the commodities is the wild in this game. Like, you can use one of the commodities as any other, you know, a wild thing. Like with Murphy, when you have white cubes or anything, you know. But in this one, I used the wrong one because I was so confused by everything else that I started doing mistakes on other things as well. So, abysmal rulebook. But overall, I like the idea of having your workers having different kind of a action strength that you can do. And the events, I like them. They are harsh sometimes. They are unpredictable, kinda, but they are predictable if you know the game. And I like this kind of a building up. It was a great idea so far that I just need to play the right way, and then experience the whole game in a better way. So yeah, but we both agreed with another player that we should play it again. And there's also the advanced rules. That make the game even a little bit more harder, but seems like the advanced rules will, you know, spice up the game even more. And yeah, looking forward to that. Okay. So Nevada City, be careful. Go to the forums, look at clarifications before you play your first game, because it can be an abysmal experience if you... oh my god. And the production is okay at most. This game doesn't look exciting. It's Homesteaders 2.0, you know. It's...
Yeah, this was one I saw and thought, I'm not sure I'm interested in that. And it sounds like maybe I'll wait for version 2.0.
I don't think they will print that. It's Rio Grande Games. They don't do the good quality games. But
no, they don't.
But I mean, like, you should try this game. You might like it. It has really cool ideas and mechanisms in it. Really.
Maybe.
If you get the chance, of course.
Yeah, if somebody else has it.
Yeah. All right, so we got our recent plays in, and now we're going to go to another segment that's called What's on Kickstarter, and then we're going to go to the Kickstarter page. Wow.
The answer to the question, what's on Kickstarter, is nothing.
True, but you can already see a few things here. But... I mean, there are some few things going on, and maybe you want to talk about that one project you are interested in. Okay. Is it on this page?
That page is too small for me to see. I don't think it is. No, the only project that I currently think is very interesting is, I think it's called Gamer's Chest. And basically, it's this large dice tower looking thing full of wooden trays that you can pull out and store pieces on your table. Yeah. So this looks interesting. It's basically just the same. And currently, I use little silicone muffin tins to store my components on the table, and this looks like, you know, a nicer upscale version of that. And it converts into a nice looking dice tower that also has some function. It's not a game, obviously. It's quite expensive.
It is.
But it's sort of the kind of thing that looks like it would be, well, I mean, it looks like something that I would want. So lots of people might be interested in it. I don't know that it's anything special or revolutionary, but it does look like a lot of thought has gone into it, and that's something I always appreciate. And it also looks like it'll fulfill in a couple of months, because it's basically just some wooden pieces.
Yeah, I looked at this one. It's really cool. It's rather expensive, and I mean, the Dice Tower had. I looked at this on the crowd surfing video, whatever, and they say the right thing. It's something that I wouldn't buy for myself. It's something that if somebody like wants to gift me or like wants to give me as a present,
Sure.
then that's a really cool present. That's something I would like to have. If they think about getting me the game, I would say no, please. Like I need to pick my games myself. But this one is neutral. I mean, I think
Yeah.
everybody would like it
Yeah,
to have as a
it's
present.
certainly unoffensive. I don't know anyone who would want to buy me a gift like this, so I have to buy it for myself. But,
Yeah.
but it looks interesting. I don't know
Yeah.
that it's revolutionary in any way, but it looks like a nice board game table accessory that you could find a lot of ways to use.
Yeah, I would love to have it if I would. Anyway, yeah, that's the gamer's chest.
Mm-hmm.
Gamer's
Not this
Dice
kind.
Tower. Yeah. All right. So my pick for what's on Kickstarter is a Martin Wallace's game re-implemented into a new edition, and that's called Tinner's Trail. If you have seen that.
No, I probably would have heard that title and thought it sounded really boring.
Yeah, it doesn't sound anything like that, but I mean, like, recently I got to, experience a few of, Martin Wallace's games, and he's a smart dude. I mean, he does really cool things economically in the games, and this one seems to be the one, building up some kind of a stock things and going on, getting resources, building yourself up, multi-use of the cards. It just sounds cool. It sounds like this is the kind of game, and he makes crunchy games, but those crunchy games don't have that many rules. His games are usually not extremely complicated, but really strategic. And I like how it looks. It looks rather bright for the Martin Wallace game, so I don't know very much about that. But yeah, that's.
I don't know much about it either, and I don't know that I'm super excited to find out much more. It doesn't look all that interesting to me, but hey, maybe it's wonderful.
Might be.
What
So
is
we'll
it
see.
re-implementing? You said it was a new version
It's
or something?
no, it's the second edition of that, like of one of these
Okay.
classic designs. So you can get the retail version. You can see for $45.
I'm not
then-
sure that classic is the right word to describe this. I don't know that very many people have heard of this game.
But I mean, like he's classic. It's they
Okay.
said.
Fair enough. That word
mean,
might
like,
be used a little liberally.
Yeah. Oh, there you
If I were
go.
going to say a classic Martin Wallace game, I'd say Brass.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it seems it came out in 2008. So
okay.
some kind of an older game re-implemented. I don't know.
Fair enough. Hey, I hope it's wonderful. I always hope that every game is wonderful and that somebody who gets it will really enjoy it.
Yeah, true
But
that.
in this case, I don't think somebody will be me.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna go back from here and no more Kickstarter, and then we give it back to our images. And yeah, we should look more beautiful now. And we're gonna get to the next segment, which is Guess That Game, where we're gonna guess
right.
that game or those games. Should I rename it in Guess Those Games? These games?
No,
Okay.
I'd leave it alone.
Okay. I'll leave it alone. Anyway, so Kyle, give me hints. I'm gonna guess that game.
All right. So this game is a card drafting game.
I see. It's Seven Wonders.
It is not. In this game, you're going to draft when you draft your cards. Eventually, what you're going to be doing is either you're going to get your hand of cards, and then you're going to either throw some away for resources, or put some into your building area to build later.
I see. This is Steampunk Rally.
It is not.
Steampunk Rally. No, no. Okay.
In this game, what you're trying to do is time production, because there are 5 different resources, occasionally more, that you'll produce, and they produce in a very specific order. So if you're able to finish one building first, it will produce in a later phase.
Building one. It's not London, no. Not sure about that yet.
Okay. Thematically, you're choosing some kind of a dystopian world that you want it to be. There's something about bankers and generals.
What? Dystopian
Something about
world.
bankers and generals.
Is it a
The
wonderful
theme
world?
isn't very strong.
It's a wonderful world?
It is indeed.
Okay, I do have a copy, and I haven't yet played that one.
Okay.
Because I want to get more than 2 players to play it.
Very well. Well, as someone who's only played it with 2 or solo, I find
Does it work?
It works well. It works well at both of those counts. Yes.
I see. All right, all right.
I
Maybe
even
should-
played through both of the campaigns.
But I mean, how does it play with 2 players? A drafting game could be more
Yes,
interesting
it
with
works.
more
It
players.
works really well. It works well.
Okay, okay. I got
mean,
this one because
It might work better with 3, but but it
Yeah.
works. I found it worked well both as a solo and as a 2-player.
yeah, I got this one because it was like, everybody's talking about that, and I'm not into drafting games. I've never I don't have any drafting games because I just don't like them usually. But this one's like maybe, and I didn't like Seven Wonders
Steampunk
though.
Rally?
Steampunk Rally has many other things that I really like that
Okay.
that make this better.
Okay.
So that's that. All right.
That's that.
Let's go to one of my games that I'm gonna give hints on. The first game. It's a worker placement game.
Is it Caverna?
No. It's also a set collection game. Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I might need more for that one.
This game has magic, magical theme, kind of a.
Imperial.
No, but next one, you're gonna guess that. This game is about books.
Oh, is it that library one?
Might be.
The magical library game.
The Renegade Game Studios.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
That
You wanted to say
Ex Libris.
Libris, yes.
There we go. Magical library game.
Magical library game, but it is. I mean, it's about
Okay.
books. Yeah. All right.
you
You almost got it. Yeah, you got it after the books. Yeah. All right. So your turn.
All right. So my next game is a dice game.
I see. It's one of the games that's on your top 10 dice games list today.
It is not, but
Oh, I see.
it was one I thought about.
Okay.
Second clue, it is a cooperative dice game.
It gives me so much more to choose from. I don't know. Cooperative dice game.
This game uses that sort of same Yahtzee-esque mechanism where you've got roll and save type things.
The thing is that I cannot even remember any of the cooperative dice games, really. Nothing pops into my mind right now.
In this game, though, after you roll, if you're not successful at doing what you need to do, you often have to throw a die away.
Okay. If you're not successful, you throw a die away. It's a cooperative dice game.
Not forever, just for the end until the end of that round.
Oh my god, I totally blank.
There is lots of special equipment one can acquire to help add dice to rolls or change or manipulate things.
And totally blank. I think I might know the game, but I'm totally blank.
We'll give you one more big hint. In this game, you're frequently fighting Cthulhu and his friends.
I don't know, Eldritch Horror or something like that.
It's not Eldritch Horror. That's not really a dice game.
Oh, I know, the Elder Sign.
That's the one.
Okay. I played it so long ago, and I was like, cooperative dice game?
It is.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Because, I mean, like, Eldritch Horror, I was like thinking about it, but Eldritch Horror isn't, I wouldn't call it a dice game, though. Yeah, Eldritch Horror is not a dice game.
There you go.
Maybe we'll see that on your list. Okay. All right, so my second one is also a Cthulhu-themed game. We were on the same page. So, Cthulhu-themed game.
Another Cthulhu. Is it Don't Mess with Cthulhu?
No, you should mess with Cthulhu.
Okay.
That's the way you do. But in this game, you're going on an expedition.
Is it Mountains of Madness?
Oh, it is. It is.
Oh, well, there we go.
Because my next clue was it can drive you mad.
Well, there you are.
In both ways, in game and you know, meta speaking, because it can drive you mad if somebody cannot talk to you and they do something weird and like, oh my god, just tell me. And you don't understand what they're doing, and I'm like, what is going on here?
I'll just sit down underneath the table for a minute.
Yeah. It was, I mean, like, it's not something I would want to own, but it's a convention game, it seems. It's something that I would occasionally want to play.
It is a special occasion game, I think I would say. It's a game that is not fun every day, but if you pull it out at just the right moment for that Halloween party or just that right group of people, it can be a very special experience.
True. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go to the next segment, which is Under and Over. And in this segment, we're gonna talk about underrated games and overrated games. So Kyle, why don't you start and give me those two games?
So an underrated game is a game that I have enjoyed many times. I think I eventually gave my copy away. Just because, you know, it's a game that you don't really need to play every day, but it's kind of fallen off. It's just a very adorable game and a very memorable game. And the game is called Chateau Roquefort.
What? How do you spell that?
Chateaueau, I think.
T-E.
I don't know how to spell it. Let's see if we can figure that out.
Okay, but let's say, yeah, you can...
Chateauroq.
What? It doesn't show anything.
I know it's there. It's not that underrated a game. Hold on, let me find it for you.
No,
all right, I know it's there.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties.
All right, Chateau. Second word, ROQ.
Chateau. Chateau.
ROQ.
It doesn't show me. You have to send me the.
Send you a link.
Yeah, or something. Not the link. I mean, like, send me the name. Just write me down the name, and I can show it there. It's so underrated that it's not even.
Well, I do sometimes here. I'll send you the link. Here you are. I sometimes do get the name wrong, but this one I'm pretty confident about.
Oh, sorry. I tried with S, not C. Sorry, I misheard that. You said C-A. Chateau. Okay.
Yeah. There you are. That's the one.
Chateau. Yes, I know the word chateau. Yes. Sorry.
All right.
I don't know why I put S, not C.
I don't know.
Okay, now we got
I think
it.
I said C.
Yeah,
so
you said C. Yeah.
This is a weird game, right? This game, you've got this roof, and you've got these mice in a tower, and you're going to pick up pieces of the roof and move onto them, and you're ultimately trying to collect sets of cheese, different kinds of cheese. And so it has almost that like the old magical labyrinth mechanism where you'll take a piece and you'll push other pieces along through. And in the course of this, there's a couple of pieces that have holes in them, and if you're able to position your opponents in such a way that you can push them into a hole, well, then they'll lose one of their mice. It is just a very light, bright, fun little game that I just, it's one that you just don't ever hear about anymore. Obviously, as we discovered from our difficulties even finding the game. So it's one that I really enjoy, and I've had a lot of fun with, and it's certainly not going to. It's almost a kid's game, but I've only ever played it with adults. So, so there you go, a game that is underrated, and it seems quite forgotten.
Okay, I see. Yeah, sounds dull, but that's fine.
Dull? No, you've got mice and holes, and you're trying to push them into it.
Oh, I can see that. Okay, that's the way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but looks nice.
There you are.
All right, so what's your overrated game?
All right, my overrated game. This is a game that I enjoyed, but it is really ugly and has very poor components and a whole lot of weird take that and lasts way too long. The game is called Dominant Species.
Okay. I know how to write that.
Yeah. So you look at that cover and you think, ooh, this is going to be exciting. And then you open it up and it's a bunch of cones and cubes. And it's definitely not. I mean, the look doesn't do it any favors. The length doesn't do it any favors. It is really interesting because you've got these 6 different types of animals that you can be that are represented by different colored cubes. And you're evolving and developing special powers, and that's interesting. But the game itself, it's one I don't think I have seen anyone playing in a very long time. And yet it occupies a pretty high spot in rankings. So I'm wondering what's going on there. I think it might be a little overrated.
Yeah, that's an interesting theme. I really want to try that one, but I mean, like, I just cannot. I cannot go because I'm sure it's rather complicated, and it looks so abysmal that it just I cannot look past that. That's where I'm not playing the prototype. That's how it is. All right, but yeah, I can see that. I'm in spaces. All right, so my underrated and overrated picks, and one of my underrated picks is it's a bit tricky because maybe it's underrated because it's not so widely available yet. I'm sure it will be soon, or maybe it is, but I didn't get a copy yet. It's still on a pre-order for me, at least in Estonia, and I'm talking about Aquatica.
Oh, okay.
But Aquatica has already, as you can see, 8,000 ratings, but it's still really low. So it seems like most people really, rate it something in between, a mediocre game or something like that. It's okay game, but I think it's a really cool game. And in Aquatica, yes, you're getting those different cards which have the symbols, and you're sliding them in, doing the actions. You're building up your things. You have like a deck building, kind of a deck building game going on. And this sea theme, this game is not a looker like Abyss, for example. Abyss is a much more beautiful game. This one has some really, not so rounded edges on it. But I like those different abilities and using your deck and kind of a role selection, basically, and getting to those different goals and sliding those cards in, doing different actions in different ways. You kind of combining those actions with sliding the different cards. I just like that very much, and it's up to you how much you slide that card in. It's a cool choice. and a rather light experience, but still very engaging. I don't know. It's just a perfect mid-weight card game with a beautiful theme, though a little bit abstract, or kind of abstract, or rather abstract.
Okay.
All right, so that's underrated game, but I hope once it gets the expansion out with like and it gets very widely available in different countries, at least in Europe, then it will maybe rise in the rankings.
Sure.
So, and my overrated pick is the game that I played with you, Kyle, on the cruise, and I think we should back off from that kind of a mechanism and design, and I'm talking about Snowdonia.
Oh, I love.
And the thing is, it's an older game, but again, we played the Deluxified, the new version, and you would think that, okay, maybe they will, do some stuff differently in the Deluxified version. But on the other hand, I can see that. I can see that because this one.
That's the old version.
That's the old version, yeah. But basically, yeah, the new version doesn't have the Deluxified version doesn't have the rating, but Snowdonia basically. The problem I have with Snowdonia is that it's too much of a restriction of where you move. You have to clear that basically like rubble, and you have to move in order, and that's what I think is not a good design anymore nowadays. I think we should go in the way of, for example, it would be much better of a game for me if there would be those spots. I have to clear the rubble, but I can go that way. I can go that way and then clear that rubble, and the choice I make is I make this spot available for everyone, but in that particular round, for example, it's more beneficial to me. On the next turn, I can go completely other way and clear out that rubble, if you can understand me. Right now, you have to go in a track, but I would have loved it to be like just different spots, and I choose what spot I clear out. I choose where I invest in. Not doesn't matter the order. So I don't like those restricted games. It's the same with viticulture, where it restricts me of those different seasons having those different worker spots. I want to have the whole board open to me, and I choose where I go. I just don't like that thing, and I think it's an outdated mechanism or outdated design, because nowadays good and chunky euros and one of the most popular euros are the ones that give you choices of going there, there, or there, or there. This one that's not good anymore. You have to forget about Snowdonia and play some good games. Yeah.
I wish I could play more Snowdonia. The problem is there are so many expansions for it that I have not yet had a chance to try. And I just, with so many games available, I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
Yeah, as you can see, the track boards here.
Oh, there you go. That's Snowdonia with an actual track.
Yeah, that's where but I don't think the expansions will get rid of that track.
They don't change the core mechanisms. There are some that will, like there's one where you're building 2 mountains, and so you've got sort of 2 tracks you can go through. They sort of are riffs on the same thing. I also played Alubari, which is basically the same game.
Yeah.
With almost no changes in the rules.
I had Alubari on my wish list, that I wanted to try to play, but after I played Snowdonia, I was like, nope. Alubari, bye-bye.
I was really interested to get Alubari, but after I played it at Dice Tower West last year, and I was underwhelmed by it because it basically felt like Snowdonia with a different board.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. All right. So this is the under and over, and now we're gonna go to the next segment, which is funky components. And we talk about games that have like deluxeified or weird or big, small, the components that stand out a lot. So, Kyle,
all right.
what's your
So
pick?
this is I don't know. This is a weird one, but this is not a deluxe component at all, but it is a component that stands out mostly for its smell. And
I can see where you're going.
This is in the game Stone Age, and
Yeah.
there is this leather cup that just smells foul. It is the foul-smelling leather cup in Stone Age.
But there's the
everybody who's-
version. There's the version that doesn't have that smelly cup. I had the version that.
Well, the version I
doesn't smell
have has a
bad.
smelly cup.
Okay,
Well,
I
maybe
see.
that seems like an obvious improvement in a new edition, but I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
it
old
is.
edition, and my cup definitely still smells. It
Yeah.
still stinks after all these years.
Yeah, yeah, just a cup. But on the other hand, it's a really cool cup. I like the idea. Because it fits the
Well,
theme, and the smell fits
Yeah,
the
I
theme. I
just
think.
wish that perhaps somebody had. Maybe. I don't know that that was an intentional choice, but it is definitely a memorable choice.
If the cup would smell like a nice juicy steak, would that be a better option?
No, I would prefer it not to smell at all.
Strawberries? No.
No, I'm just okay with a cup.
So each time you play the game, you get out that air spray and just spray all over the cup before you play it? No?
No, I just sort of leave it to sit out for a while if I know I'm going to play the game.
I see, all right. Okay. So that's the dice cup from Stone Age. And my pick is from a two-player game called Kero. And Kero is, as you can see here, you have those trucks.
Those ridiculous trucks.
Yes. It is a funky component. These are like painted, it seems. So, but these trucks are basically sand timers. As you can see here, here's the real truck. These are sand timers, and like you use that because in this game you are, I don't know, the theme is a bit abstract, but you're like driving or something like that. But the sand timers are basically you're rolling the different dice, trying to get certain, combinations or certain symbols on the dice that you want. And the more you roll the dice, the more you spend the time, basically. And, you don't want to get out of the fuel, because if you run out of the fuel during rolling, you're busted. So it's kind of a push your luck, real time rolling the dice. And I don't know, those trucks are just toys that give a little bit to that theme, just a little bit, but they're not necessary at all. It could be just sand timers, but these look cool. I know, I just like how they look. I like to topple them, basically on the side, and then the time runs, and then I think the one cool part is that because you can see only the sand that goes away, you cannot see how much sand is really in it. It's like if you could see the both sides of the sand timer, it could have a better way to see how much time you get. But it's partially hidden, so it adds the stress, which is cool about this push your luck. Yeah.
All right.
Kero, the sand trucks things. Yeah. All right, so we have done all our topics, and now we're gonna go to the topic of the week. I wanted to say that's the topic of the day, which is top 10 dice games.
Woohoo.
Wow, the fancy ticker. Now, the thing is that with the top 10 dice games, as I told Kyle as well, I'm looking in this list. I was looking for the games that where the dice are the driving mechanism, the main mechanism, and those could be the dice placement games and dice drafting games as well. and I'm sure Kyle did some cheating on that, and we'll see how much you have those dice games versus, because it was hard for me to do this.
Well, I don't know that I have any super cheaty results. I was instructed that Summoner Wars did not count as a dice game, and I also excluded, I believe, many games that sort of just use dice kind of casually as a mechanism for randomness or dispute resolution.
Yeah.
And tried to focus on games where the dice have a bit of a bigger role.
Yeah. But
Unintended.
on the other hand, for example, there were some games where dice had an equal role to everything else, something like that. Like, for example, Living Planet. Dice are basically the main thing driving the how many actions you get, what cataclysms do, trigger, and so on. But it's not a dice game. Those dice are like exploring and do other things. Like everything else you do in the game is as equally as important, and choosing those faces of the dice. So it doesn't feel like a dice game. So, but there might be few on my list that you would think like, are they dice games or are they like games with dice? We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I made a good faith effort at this list. I hope I don't have any that don't quite count, but we'll see.
All right, but without ado, let's go to our number 10. So, Kyle, what's your number 10?
All right, my number 10 is a game that kind of came back onto my list recently because I got the new version in a briefcase. The game is a Las Vegas themed game called Lords of Vegas.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I can see
in
that.
Lords of Vegas, you're trying to build up your casino empire, and you do so largely with dice. And so you're going to put dice into the casino, and you'll try and challenge people for control of the different casino. I don't know what those cones are. Oh, they've upgraded the pieces, I guess. Those are occupying the lots. What you're doing is whenever you want to have a struggle for control, people who have more dice in that, because you'll roll all those dice, and the people who have more dice in there will have a greater odds of being successful in retaining control of the casino. So, although the game is not about dice, they do play a rather large role in the game, and it's an interesting way to use them. It's a good classic game that I now have a version that has poker chips, and so I'm excited to try that because the paper money was awful. And
Yeah.
I just really enjoy it, and I do think that it definitely features dice prominently.
Yeah. That's the expanded kind of a way of looking at dice games. Like I don't want to go with just dice games, because otherwise it will be just mostly roll and write or something like that. So
Yeah, it's not gonna, yeah.
it fits the idea of what I had in my mind about the dice games. So
Okay.
all right, so my number 10 is a game that's the one where I feel like it's on the edge of, it's not completely a dice game. There's some parts that are equally important, but most of those things are driven by dice. And I'm talking about a game called Steampunk Rally. And Steampunk Rally is, though it's a drafting and race game, everything you do in this game, you want to do it through the dice, and you're activating those different spots, and I don't even have a good picture of that, but it has a ton of those cool translucent dice.
There they are.
Oh, for example, this one. As you can see, yeah, you're building those cards up and you're racing, but those cards are the spots for the dice, and the dice are extremely important. Without the dice, nothing works in this game. It seems so. So I kind of feel like it's on the edge of being a dice game. Though, yeah, there are some equal parts. I don't know if you agree with me. This is the one on number 10 because it's on the edge.
I thought about it. I ended up putting I won't say too much because I might have, I don't know. I do agree that the dice are important, and I'm certainly excited for the new fusion dice in the new version.
Oh yes.
And so I don't know. I almost consider it more of a drafting game than a dice game, but I would agree that there are plenty of dice in there, and they are important.
All right. So that's Steampunk Rally. Rally. How do you say rally? Rally?
Rally.
Rally? Rally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's go to number 9. Let's rally to number 9.
Well, I don't know that's how we use the term.
Okay. Let's go away from that. All right. So number 9. Kyle?
All right, my number 9. Now this one is definitely there are lots of dice in it, and they are a driving mechanism because it's essentially a roll and move game. This game is Camel Up, and in Camel Up you throw a bunch of dice into a pyramid, and you shake that pyramid and drop a die out, and then you'll move that camel a certain number of spaces. And so there's not a whole lot of strategy in the game. Let me be straightforward. It's more of a fun, silly game than a deep, heavy strategy game. But understanding those dice are very important for realizing, which camel could move, deciding how you want to bet, how you want to think about what's going to, what could happen, and the order in which things could happen. And so the dice are very important, and they drive the game. Although, thematically, it's more about placing your bets than actually rolling the dice.
Yeah. No, that kind of gives me the vibe of that. We talk about Steampunk Rally. It's almost the same. It's a racing game that
So I
uses...
said I wasn't going to be too critical of Steampunk Rally because I could see what was coming up.
I might see this dice game. I don't know how much. I skipped this game for many years. I was like, no, I don't think I will like it. But now, as I'm trying to get more of those family-style games, more games that are just, pure fun. You're like, ha ha ha, look what dice you got. I want to have those games in my collection, so I got the copy, but I haven't played. I have this. This is the new version. This is the second edition.
The new version.
So I got the second edition because it looks so gorgeous. I mean, and the dice tray. The first one was the cardboard, I think, and it wasn't the best quality.
Cardboard dice pyramid. Well, it wasn't the best quality, but it worked, right? I mean, I played that version a lot of times.
But plastic seems to be more durable.
Sure.
Yeah, so, okay, nice. I'm looking forward to playing that dice game. All right, so my number 9 is a game we just talked about very recently during that episode. And I'm going back to Kero. Yeah, and I do enjoy, this is somewhat underrated game, but I do enjoy this game because of that push your luck and rolling the dice. And the dice determine the things you can do, the things you can collect, and the whole thing just resolves around those dice. And you get even better dice, you can roll them better. So I think it's totally a dice game, though it has equally those set collection parts, having few special abilities, but eventually everything is driven through, pushing your luck and getting the symbols on the dice. So Kero, a really cool 2-player kind of a dual game. I just liked it. I liked my experience with that. And if they would re-implement it a little bit, maybe done a few things differently, I cannot really say what. I have to play it again to be more precise. But it might have been even a higher game form. But yeah.
Okay.
A good game. Kero, my number 9. So let's go to number 8. So Kyle, what's your number 8?
All right. My number 8, I think, is Unimpeachable. So this is a game
That's the
all about...
game's name? Unimpeachable?
No, all about... It's unimpeachably a dice game. This is a game all about dice. In fact, dice are sort of in its name. The game is Role Player. And in Role Player, you are rolling dice, you're drafting those dice, you're trying to use them to gain special abilities, trying to manipulate their values, trying to place them in certain spots. This game does have cards, but it's really all about the dice. So it's a great dice game.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. The thing is that I played Sagrada before role player, and spoiler, both are not on my list. I considered role player, but the thing is that I'm not into those puzzle games where the centric thing is just trying to get this puzzle's math or whatever it is, or like polyominoes, for example. I don't like these games. So this is one of those. Though I appreciate the design. I mean, like, it is a really good game. Just I didn't put it on my list because it's just a puzzle that I'm not interested in.
But it does have lots of dice.
Yeah, it's a dice. It's definitely a dice-driven game, indeed. Though if you could, like, maybe replace the dice with chits and it would work. But yeah, I can see that.
Then it wouldn't be role player.
Yeah, it would be a chit player.
Uh-huh.
That sounds weird. Okay.
It doesn't work.
So my number 8 is a dice drafting game, and those dice represent various things in the game and cataclysms as well. And I'm not talking about Living Planet. I'm talking about Pioneer Days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not Living Planet. No, Living Planet is not a dice game, not at all. But in this game, you're basically, you're rolling those different dice and you're drafting them from various action spots, and that's what you basically get. You're building up, you're getting those different special ability cards, the people, and, getting your resources and stuff. There's a lot going on in this game except the dice. But the dice are the ones that activate those things, those spots and etc. And eventually the last die that's not drafted is the one that's gonna trigger the cataclysm, which is really cool. So by drafting those dice, you decide what will happen, what bad thing will happen in the end. And sometimes, it's not only your decision, like the other players drafted as well. And then when it comes to that, the last two dice, and both are equally bad for you, and you have to draft that second to last die, then it's a really cool, twist on that. But yeah, I feel it is a dice game.
Sure. Fair enough.
Though having many more things, but the main mechanism is dice. It could have been named.
It could have been chits.
Pioneer Chits. Or it could have been named Pioneer Dice. But I think they went with Pioneer Days, though it's Pioneer
Chit
Days.
days.
Chitty days are the ones that are over now, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
2020 already is over. Don't be shy to sell that. Okay. All right. Pioneer Days, my number 8.
Okay.
So let's go to number 7.
Right.
Your number 7?
My number 7. All right. This one, this one almost, you kind of knew it would be on my list when you said that when we decided on what this list was going to be.
Oh,
This is a
Summoner
game
Wars?
No, I was told Summoner Wars isn't allowed on the list, so it's not going
Yes.
to be here. But this is a game that the dice are the driving factor of the game. The game is called Dungeon Fighter, and in Dungeon Fighter, you are rolling dice in a variety of silly ways and trying to get them to land in certain spots on a target. The dice are essentially the game, and the rest is trappings to make them more fun. So it's a game I quite enjoy. It's a game like very little else out there. It's a memorable experience that everybody stops to watch, and one that I continue to enjoy after all these years.
Yeah.
There's
This
somebody
is
rolling dice.
something like that. Yeah, I can see that being a dice game. It's not like Yeah, yeah. I think you said it right. But when you play it, you don't think about it as a dice game. You think about it as like a dungeon crawl game, but kind of a silly dungeon crawl game.
A
But
very
yeah,
silly one.
now you said it. I never considered that one being a dice game, but now as you said it, it might be the one. Yeah, it might be it's a dice game. Yeah. Cool. All right. So my number 7 is a game that's certainly a dice game, and it might be in your list as well. I'm rather sure about it. So it's Roll for the Galaxy. And Roll for the Galaxy is a really cool as a 2-player game, though some people say it's better with more players, but I like it very much as a 2-player game because it's so fast with 2 players. But yeah, in this game, you are rolling different dice and then assigning them to, if there's no good picture, but basically, yeah, you have those dice. Dice are basically resources. Dice are basically activation points, and you're selecting those different main actions. And the cool part about that is that everybody's selecting them at the same time. So sometimes, and when they activate kind of for everyone. So the different phases, different action phases. So you are thinking about like, will he use those dice to activate explore action, whatever, I don't remember the action names exactly, or activate this action. So you have to decide, you have to outsmart and read your opponents. What are they going to activate? So that way you were not wasting your dice on the actions that you will activate as well, the same as the other opponents. I don't know how to explain it basically, but yeah. You're trying to manipulate your dice in a way that you get best turns out of other opponents' choices and out of your choices. So, yeah. And then you build up and get those different cool abilities that make your dice even better and etc. and blah blah.
There you are.
Roll for the Galaxy, my number 7. All right. Whoops. We're going to go to number 6.
Oh, it's here for real.
It is, yeah.
All right. My next entry is also, I think, it's a cooperative dice game. It's not Elder Sign, though. It is The Reckoners. And so in The Reckoners, each character has a set of dice with some that are sort of specialized in one or another symbol. And you're trying to roll those dice, preserve them, and assign them in ways to defeat certain enemies and gain certain advantages. Really what you're doing is making best use of your dice and your special abilities, and that's how the game works. It's definitely the dice are the stars, and they're also rather large, hefty dice that are kind of unlike anything else out there.
All right, yeah. That's something I haven't played, but it's from the company that did Stockpile.
Yes.
So, which I really love, So
yeah, it
something
has
I need
very
to try.
Little to do. Very little to do with Stockpile.
No, I don't say that these are like same games, but I mean like this is the company that has produced a really cool game, so I'm eager to try another game from them. So, yeah,
I think it's the same designers too. It's definitely not. They're definitely not boxed into one particular type of game.
Brandon Sanderson? No.
Well, Sanderson's the author of the book that it's based on.
Oh yes, it is. Okay. All right. So my number 6 is a game from the Tiny Epic series, which is a dice game, surely, and it is a Tiny Epic Galaxies.
Okay.
And Tiny Epic Galaxies is a game about you rolling those dice and choosing different actions, and people can follow your actions, etc. And you are trying to, build up your resources, and then get the planet cards, conquer them or whatever. Go with diplomacy and yeah, just building yourself up and using the dice in a best way possible. And it's that in a small package, but I think it's a lot of game in that small package.
Sure.
Indeed. So Tiny Epic Galaxy is one of the best games in that series. I don't know if...
Yeah, I thought about this one, and I thought about the other game that I like in the series, which is Quest, Tiny Epic Quest, which is also a fairly dice-heavy game. But I ended up not putting either one on my list.
Just because you don't like it as much?
Yeah, just because I found other dice games I liked more. But I definitely considered both of these two.
Yeah.
Because they definitely are dice.
Oh, this is a Yahtzee game.
Dice-centric.
Yeah. All right, Tiny Epic Galaxy is my number 6, sorry. Let's go to number 5. All right, Kyle, what's your number 5?
Number 5. All right. Number 5. This is a game. It's a dice worker placement game, essentially. In the game is called The Voyages of Marco Polo. There are 2, and they are pretty much the same game. But in the game, you'll roll your dice unless you have the special ability that says you don't have to, and you'll place those dice, right? There's different requirements of numbers of dice. Sort of the hook in this one is it doesn't really matter what you roll because you can always take any action. Sometimes if you roll higher, then you're going to have access to maybe a better version of the action, but it might end up being more expensive. And so you're sort of making the decisions of whether you want to, because if somebody else takes a space, you can always go on top of them with really no penalty except a small payment equal to the value of your dice. So it's a very interesting game that's not super thematic. It's sort of generic Eurogame theme splattered on here, but it's a lot of fun to play, and it's really all about making the best use of the dice that you have and the resources that you have to acquire more. So,
okay,
there we are.
Is it like the dice are the driving mechanism? Is there a lot going on beside the dice?
Well, there are other things, but everything is sort of manufactured through the dice. The dice allow you to get the resources to complete the contracts or to access the spot that lets you travel. Or so it's sort of almost it's the dice are your workers and it's a worker placement game.
Okay, yeah, all right. I've not played it and I'm not sure I want to try that, but yeah.
It does not seem like the type of game that would speak to you immediately off the page.
Yeah. All right. So, but my number 5 is another game that literally says dice in its name. And that's Dice Down. And it's the same. I mean, like, the theme of this list is not just, having pure dice games, Yahtzee style, but though this one is also kind of a Yahtzee style, but it's also, there's really cool looking things. But this one is a set collection, a poker game as well, but the centric mechanism are those dice, which are basically like poker cards that you are choosing, and if you want to keep some of those dice where you're rolling Yahtzee style, you have to pay money, and eventually you activate what I call the collections of those dice, the combinations of those dice to do the actions on the board, and those like the 3 queens, what the poker style, the pairs, and three of a kind, 4 of a kind, and etc. Blah blah blah, and straights and whatever. I don't remember all the poker terms, but yeah, it's really cool. It's chucking the dice and then trying to get better poker hands through dice than your opponent. Just collecting stuff and getting some abilities as well from the general store. It's easy. It's fun.
It is. It's a good game that's aged quite well.
Yeah. It's not hard to teach as well. All right, that was my number 5, Dice Down. Let's go to number 4. So, Kyle, what's your number 4?
Right. My number 4 is this This is probably the least dice game on my list, but the dice are, I mean, it's all about the dice, right? This is a real-time cooperative game that's almost, if you were to give it a theme, you would say it's probably like Contra, the old video game. The game is called Project Elite.
Okay.
And in Project Elite, you've got I believe it's a 2 or 2.5 minute timer where you're going to roll your dice frantically and take all your actions. Everybody sort of does it at the same time. You roll, you move, you shoot. You roll, you move, you shoot. You have 2 minutes to do everything that you want to do, and then, of course, these alien forces are going to march towards you relentlessly and try and sabotage your efforts. But it's a frantic game. When you say go, everybody the faster you roll, the faster you resolve, the more you're able to do. So it's your heart gets racing, but really you are definitely using these dice to do everything. They're the core of the game, and so it's very much a dice game, even though it features sort of aliens and monsters and minis marching over the board.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I don't know how it's played, but if it's driven by dice, then fits
It definitely
our
is driven
list.
by dice.
Fits our interpretation of this list. Definitely. All right, so my number 4 is certainly a dice game, and I think we are on the same page today, totally, because it's not on this, like on different segments we picked similar themes, or like with Cthulhu, for example, we had, but this one is also a real time, rolling your dice as fast as you can, using them for various kind of actions, but this one is in a more simple way, and that's called Escape, the Curse of the Temple.
Yeah.
And yeah, Escape the Curse of the Temple is a real-time cooperative dice rolling game where you roll dice as fast as possible, trying to get the symbols you can of the tile that you enter. So you can enter that tile and then you roll them again, but sometimes your dice can be locked by those totem symbols, and then you need to get the golden masks in order to unlock them. But other players can also help. If you're stuck, other players can help you. This game has a lot of expansions and things which might be a little bit too crazy, because you need to know the game really well to add those expansions. So you will not be constantly looking at the rules, because you have only 10 minutes. You don't have time to look at rules. You have to know the game through and through. But as the base game, I think as a base game, it's still it's very stressful. Mm-hmm. And we, by the way, I even did the Blender segment on that game a long time ago. And so yeah, I had fun playing that. I don't have this game anymore, but when I'm looking back at this game, I think maybe I should own it, at least the base game plus an expansion or two, or if I get the chance to play it during, for example, the board game camps or whatever, I would play it again, because this was a fun, stressful experience of a dice game.
Yeah, and if it had not been for Project Elite, this one probably would have been on my list in about the same place. But they sort of offer a very similar experience. I just like the Project Elite version a little.
It seems Project Elite is a much bigger game, it's thematic game as well. So, all right, so let's go to number 3.
All right. My number 3 is the most pure dice game on the list. This is a game, it's a re-implementation of an older German game called Krone und Kragen. This game is called Favor of the Pharaoh. And it is basically just a pure dice game. It's like a smarter version of Yahtzee or something like that. You're rolling dice, you're trying to get certain combinations. You'll use those combinations to acquire a different power. That power enables you to roll more dice or manipulate different dice, set dice to different faces, and you're trying ultimately to roll, I think it's like, 6 dice of all the same number, or maybe it was 7, I don't remember. But you only start with 3. And so you've got to improve yourself so that you can go up, claim the pharaoh or the king in the original one, and that's really what you're trying to do. The faster you can do that, the better. But you're really rolling those dice every turn. You've got sort of that 3 rolls unless you have something that lets you roll them more, and you're trying to get the best combinations you can. Very much a pure Yahtzee style dice game, but done with a whole lot more things that you can choose from and grow and kind of plan around. I really enjoyed the old one, and this is a very good re-implementation.
Yeah, yeah, I've had this one, played this one. Um, the thing about not the problem, but it's more of in my taste. When I looked at this, looking at those different games that I would pick for the dice games list, I was like, I'm not really playing that many dice games. I'm not a big fan of dice games overly. So, and this one is just, yeah, it's so pure of a Yahtzee game that though it was a fine experience, it's nothing I wanted to play continuously. But I can see players liking that because it's a progressive Yahtzee game. Indeed,
Yeah.
that it seems like 7 of a kind is the biggest one.
That might be. I couldn't remember what it was, but I know you only start with like 3 dice or something, so you've got to you've got to improve them.
Yeah, yeah. The improvement here is cool thing, and getting those abilities and things. So yeah, it's purely a dice game. Yeah. Definitely. All right. So my number 3 is a pure Yahtzee game, though you wouldn't say it's completely pure, but I think it is.
Is it
But
Yahtzee?
maybe for some people that I don't have anymore, and I'm at some point I was done playing that, but I haven't played it in ages. So when I have a chance to play it again, if somebody asks me to teach it or play it again, I would say yes, because it's still a great game. It's a great introduction into board games, kinda, except the ability cards. But it's King of Tokyo. And yeah, the whole thing resolves around rolling the dice. And I don't know if there's any good image of that.
Sure.
Here, for example, yeah, you roll those dice Yahtzee style, and you're trying to get the symbols. You can get some energy, you can get some attack symbols, you can attack other players, you can get some heart symbols to heal yourself, or point symbols to get the points. You're trying to get to a certain amount of points or kill everybody. And then, yeah, which is a lot of fun. The little bit more complicated part, the Yahtzee mechanism is fine. You can teach to any person, but the different cards, which are different actions and special abilities, can be a little bit overwhelming for people who are not gamers at all. I've had those situations, but if I'm there for them, and I guide them through that, and I tell them that you can use that ability right now, whatever, I'm just trying to, play the game with them, then it's fine. And once they played once, they want to, let's try it again. Now I kind of understand how it works, This is the one of those family games that has this take that moment and people piling up on other people, one person who is in the token, he's almost winning, and then you're like, let's crush him or her. So
It's a fun game. It's definitely a dice game, and I enjoy it.
yeah, there's the dark edition as well, something like that. I don't know exactly.
I have the Dark Edition, which is a nice improvement. I mean, it's the same game with some special powers.
Okay. All right. So let's go to number 2. All right, Kyle, what's your
All
number
right,
2?
my number 2. Number 2 is a game that I don't think you've played, and I think it's the type of game that you might actually enjoy, but probably wouldn't seek out. The game is very bright, very colorful, very dice-driven. It is called Coimbra. And
In the same vein as Marco Polo?
What?
In the same vein as Marco Polo?
No, it's different. I think there must be some designer that's related, but in this game, what you're doing is you start out by drafting 3 dice, and what they're different colors, and and you're going to use them first for their number, and where you place them is you have to place them in sort of the higher die goes forward, which means you're going to get to do the action sooner, but it's going to be more expensive. Because the value of the die is going to be how much you have to pay. And then, after you've done that round and you've taken your cards or whatever special abilities you're getting, you're going to use the die for its color, which is going to move you up certain tracks, let you move around the board. And so it's an interesting way to have the dice have their different aspects that are valuable at different times in the game. And so the choices you're making are, well, okay, that's a 1, but it's gray and I really need gray, or whatever it may be. So it's really an interesting take on that. It's definitely the dice are the heart of it, and it's one that I really enjoy playing. I don't know if it's for you, although I think if you tried it, you might enjoy it. I don't know why that's going into my mouth. And it's definitely very colorful.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I want to try that one. This is from those Italian designers that I'm not keen on trying their designs. It's a bit too much for me. A little bit more abstract and a puzzle that I don't enjoy.
The theme, you wouldn't play this one for the theme, but it is definitely a very enjoyable experience, and it's enjoyable at all player counts.
I see. All right, so my number 2 is definitely a dice game, and this is my dice game, and this is my go-to roll and write game.
Oh,
and
I knew this one would be on your list.
Yeah, I've tried various roll and write games, and I ended up thinking that I'm tired of them, and I want to have just one simple roll and write game that does it well. And I'm talking about Dice Stars. And Dice Stars, I mean, like, there's so many games, roll and write and write and write and draw and roll and roll and draw and there's so many of those different implementations of that mechanic, and I can totally see that. But at some point, it's getting annoying, and some of those games are a little bit too overwhelming. And I'm like, why you need to have like La Granja the dice game? Why? I mean, like, La Granja is a game that needs to be La Granja. It's not. This kind of a feeling that I have. Everybody's making dice games out of bigger games, like dice versions, and they might be fine, cool, but for roll and writes, I really want to have this simple experience. I take it out, we play it occasionally, we can go, during summer we can go sit on a terrace, have a drink and play this game while we are talking to each other. I want to have something like that, and this one does it well. You have columns or rows, and you're basically rolling those dice, taking the dice out of the bag, and then drafting those dice from the center. You draft either the numbers or the colors, and that way you are basically writing down the sum of those dice into a column or a row, and you're trying to fill it up the best way possible so you can get the biggest score. Mm-hmm. And cool part is that little bit of push your luck element with the stars. The stars are the ones that you also draft, and then you mark them down on your player sheets into those rows. But if you will not fill up the whole row of the stars, your point value for that row will be 0, which is a cool push your luck. Yeah, but I mean, like, if you can see somebody's doing really well, and all you need is just to multiply that row. If you fill it up, then your row is multiplied by 2. Then, and you can win the game with that. It's cool push your luck. And yeah, as I said, it's very simple. It's extremely engaging once you play it, but it doesn't take all your attention trying to understand all the symbols and various things you can do on this little tiny sheet that you need to write and draw on all the time. This is the roll and write game. This is the one that I want to see on the market. Not all the dice versions of those big games. It's getting overwhelming. This one, just still in my collection after many, many years, though I've tried many roll and write games. So, Dice Stars.
You do keep coming back to this one.
Yeah, just love it for the simplicity. All right, and we can now finally go to our number one.
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay,
Pile
well,
number one.
I was told that Summoner Wars didn't fit on the list, so it's not going to be in my number one slot, although it features dice. However, a different game that I talk about all the time features dice very heavily, very prominently, and in fact, part of the name's game is a synonym for dice, and that game is Too Many Bones.
Yeah.
So, Too Many Bones is all about dice. You're all of your character custom. Each of the characters has 16 special dice that they can access at different points in the game, and they're going to activate your own special abilities. And what you're doing, the game is a series of battles, and the battles are all rolled by whatever your dice level is. This looks like it's a prototype version you're looking at. I can see because Band-Aid is now called Patches, but that's okay. So it's definitely, so this is a game where you're building up your own dice pool to give you access to your special abilities so that you can fight, deal the right kinds of damage, heal, do whatever it is. And then as you go, you can sort of pick different tracks that you're going to try and customize yourself in, specialize. You can increase your stats, which are also tracked by dice. The game is from Chip Theory Games, but this game almost made it feel like it was Dice Theory Games. There are so many dice. I taught it to my brother and sister a while ago, and my sister still refers to it as that game where you roll so many dice. Because that's all you are doing in this game is just getting huge buckets of dice, and if that's what you're looking for, this game really delivers it. It is a fantastic experience like no other. It works well solo, it works well with a group. There are so many different ways to play now. There's a customizable bad guy you can build as you go. There are just the basic ones that come with the game. There's a quest campaign version. Lots to love here. Lots of rules. It could also have been called Too Many Rules. But it's definitely a great experience, a game I talk about all the time, and definitely very much a dice game. In fact, my favorite pure dice game, that is Too Many Bones.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's there all the time anyway, so.
Hey, you took one of the obvious ones away. This one clearly fits. I'm not
Summoner Wars is
shoehorning
not
it
a
at all.
dice game, though. No, not at all. It's a card game.
That's not a dice game?
No, this is a dice game. Summoner Wars is a card game.
Summoner Wars is not a dice game.
All right, well, let's go to my number one. And this is a game where you might think it's in the same vein as Coin Brand Marco Polo that you picked. This game, the central mechanism are those dice. And with those dice, you activate various things and they drive the game, but there are many other things going on with the game. And I'm talking about Black Angel. Mm-hmm. And I do enjoy Black Angel a lot because it is a heavy game and there are many things you can do, putting mission cards on those boards and activating, but...
This is a very 90s color palette.
Yeah. And those technology tiles and everything you slide in and trying to, you're using the cards as well. But everything you get and everything you can activate is through the dice. So you choose a die, you roll the dice, and then you choose a die from your compartment on the other player's compartment, and then you activate. It's a kind of worker placement spots, basically, dice and workers. You activate those dice on those different spots, and the number of pips on the die is the value, basically, number of action points you get from that. And yeah, it's just so much of a dice-driven game, in my opinion, because the die you use is the same color of the mission you can get, the same color of the mission you can play out, and etc. So the dice color also determines what you can do on your turn, as well, what you can play out, or where you can go, and so on. So dice are manipulating everything in this game, and it's a heavy Euro game, a heavier. It's not so extremely heavy, but you are, yeah, basically it's rather abstract. You are getting those different resources that you spend to go to the other board, and then getting the mission cards that you play out, and then they give you either points or some other special things, and you're moving forward in the ship, and then you are fighting off the ravages, and then trying to repair the ship, etc. Getting the technology tiles that you slide in that you can then activate in a row or column, which is a cool idea. But yeah, it's just it's a broad puzzle, you know. That's where I talked about before, for example, Snowdonia and etc., where I didn't like the puzzle to be, you know, I need to go through that track, and there's only one way, you know. There's the starting point, there's the end point. I cannot choose any action spot that I want. Here, it feels kind of the same, but I can do that or that or that, you know. I can spread myself into various actions and things. So, yeah.
Okay, I enjoy this game. I enjoy Troyes as well, which it's, you know, based on. It's the problem with it is that it's there's enough symbols in it that it's a little difficult to teach.
It is.
And so that's why I don't get it played nearly as much. I'm actually kind of surprised that you enjoy it as much as you do, but I quite enjoy. I liked it back when it came out, and I liked Troyes before it. So
I don't know. Maybe just the manipulation of the dice and the boards. Mm-hmm. I like building up and then activating things. You know, like an engine building. I think that's the main part here. So. All right. So this was my number one, Black Angel, and here we are. We have done our list.
We have.
And this is the end of this episode 30.
It is.
And we're gonna see you in 2 weeks for another episode of Würfelcast. If nothing extremely bad or good happens, I don't know.
We're planning on 2 weeks. How about that?
Yes, but usually we do it the same time, and the same day, Saturday. So right. Tune in for another episode in 2 weeks. Hopefully, if nothing bad happens. Yeah.
All right. Very well.
I don't know what to expect from 2021.
Are you feeling? You're being a bit ominous there, but that's okay. We'll end on that happy note.
We have to end on a happy note.
No.
Let's play Happy Salmon through the StreamYard.
That is not a dice game.
Okay. Yeah, true. But it's a fun game.
It is a great game. I really enjoy that game. I don't know that that's one that could really be played well across the ocean, but
yeah.
It's also not the best two-player game.
You said you wanted to end on a happy note, so happy salmon, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Peace.